Good morning. Well, the season is here. Well, almost here. Technically, it begins on the 25th of December. But the decorations are up in homes, in malls and shopping centres. In a million homes decorated with lights, filling the night sky. With all sorts of Christmas paraphernalia, decorating the inside and outside of their homes. People rushing around buying gifts and food and drink and going to parties and celebrating. And some anxious about what they will do for their children, their family. Charities working hard to organise Christmas Day lunches and gifts and to make this season whatever it is. And sometimes I'm never quite sure what this season is, what it's about or what we're to do with it. But here it is, Christmas. And I often wonder what it really is about, what it means to so many people, and what it means in the life of our world. I was thinking about this and I recognised an experience I had this year. It was an experience of Christmas. It came in the winter months, in July, when Susan and I, along with our dog Nico, went for a holiday, a couple of weeks, down in Jervis Bay, near one of the beaches there at Plantation Point. We travelled down, and it was one of those rain events that was coming up the coast, another one that resulted in minor flooding. We drove through heavy rain, and the first few days there was lots of rain. There were periods of where there was a break in the rain and we could walk along the beaches or along the pathways with bushland. It was beautiful and wonderful and gentle, cool but nice. And then one morning we woke up early, 6:15 or so, and I noticed that the light coming in behind the blind was of a different quality from the previous days. It was softer, gentler, a different hue. And so I pulled the blind back and there was the early pre-dawn light just glowing. And the sky was almost clear. There were some clouds, but nothing like the full cloud cover of the previous days. And in that moment I made a decision, it's time to go down to the beach and get some photos of sunrise. So I quickly dressed, got the camera and tripod, with Nico in tow. Off we went across the road to the beach. We walked along the beach at low tide, taking photos of this beautiful pre-dawn glow, glowing across the water and the sand and the trees. And we walked around the beach to the headland at Plantation Point, where there's a rock platform. Because it was low tide, it was quite exposed and we could walk on it. And there were other people and dogs that were already there. And I watched and took photos as the sun began to rise above the horizon. As this glow of morning sun began to fill the sky and flowed across the water and through the sky. And as the sun rose just above the horizon, this beautiful, brilliant, soft, golden glow filled the world. It seemed to travel towards us from that distant point of the sun, across the waters, reflecting off the oceans and off the waves, through the sky and reflecting off the clouds, and slowly coming towards us. And it enveloped us. It enveloped the rocks as it came, the sand, the rock pools, and then us and the dogs and the people and the headland behind us and the rocks and the vegetation that hung down over. And everything in the world was beautiful. It was filled with this beautiful golden glow. And it seemed to embrace us all. It was like this golden light was flooding the world and embracing the whole world. And in that moment, I felt this presence of love, of light, of hope, of peace, of spirit, of God. In this moment, I felt connected to everything. The sky and the clouds, the water and the waves, the sand, the sun itself, the rocks, the people, the animals, the birds that were singing, the vegetation. We were all connected, we were all one, we were all connected in this world. and that there was a love that held everything and sustained all things and would not let us go. It was a beautiful experience and moment. And in that moment, I kind of heard this voice in my head, this voice saying, it's a new day. It's a new day. This reign of God is here in this new day. For me, that was Christmas. It was an experience of this presence of God in all things. But more than that, in the complexity of life and the world in which we live, some of the things I was dealing with, particularly through work, but also in the world as the images of the world filled my screens, the invasion of the Ukraine and that awful evil that is being perpetrated there, the pain and the suffering and the struggle, the desperation and the grief and the loss, the evil of the millions of people in refugee camps around the world, through particularly Europe and Africa, or those in our own detention centres who yearn and pray for freedom and a new life and something for their children and families. I thought of the people who are suffering in other ways, under oppressive powers and regimes, or those who live in the midst of domestic violence, or in families that are dysfunctional, chaotic and abusive, or of the world itself, the earth, struggling under the weight of human occupation. 8 billion people now, too many for this earth to sustain, drawing its resources, stripping away its forests and rainforests and bushland, the trees, the lungs of the earth, of producing immense amounts of garbage and waste and pollution, filling the skies and the waterways and rivers and oceans and the earth itself with our rubbish, polluting our own home and species disappearing, and of the planet warming and all of the problems associated with that. In the midst of all these complexities and struggles and challenges, I felt this deep sense of peace. Not that they had disappeared or were irrelevant, but they were held. That something, someone, a being beyond me, us, held us in love and would not let us go. And that we were all connected. And in that moment I recognised the divisions and the barriers, the exclusions, the judgments that we all make based on language and skin colour and ethnicity and culture and age and gender and sexual orientation and ability and disability and health and mental, physical, spiritual health or disease. All the different ways in which we judge and define our politics and belief systems, our faiths and everything else fell away. In this moment, I and the world was held in this trinity of love, as I would call it. This ineffable, incomprehensible one, this presence of love that is beyond all things and at the heart of everything. And I recall these words that we'll read on Christmas Day or around this season from John's story of Jesus. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And through this Word, all things that are came into being. It's this word, this logos in Greek, this divine DNA, this blueprint of all things, Christ we may call it, is in all things and holds all things and sustains all things. We all live and exist in this trinity of love. And the story goes on to speak about the light that comes into the world, but people prefer darkness to light. and seek to live in the darkness. And yet in this experience it was about light, golden light that flooded the world and coloured us and held us. And it was beautiful. It talks about this word becoming flesh and dwelling among us. One of the beautiful translations or ways of reading it, God pitched tent, moved into our neighbourhood and lived among us. In the particularity of this event, of God being revealed in a particular way in this Jesus, whose birth we celebrate, we experience something profound and wondrous in the story. The stories of Luke and Matthew that we're more familiar with, of census and journeys and cattle and a stall and a pregnant lady and the birth of the one who's announced in the heavens by angels and visited by wise ones from afar. These stories which we tend to narrow down and harmonise and bring together in strange ways and literalise should be opened up. As I contemplate these stories, the profound wonder of God in the world, living amongst us, dwelling in our presence, through us and with us. Not top down, not coming down with power and might to avenge and bring a retributive justice, but one who works from below, from within and through and around, like this golden light of that sunrise that morning, flooding the earth with love and light. And people, when we have eyes to see and ears to hear, when our hearts are moved, and when we let go of ego and control and power and trust, this God is with us and holds us and loves us. And I think that's what Christmas is about. The lights and the tinsel and the trees and the gifts and the parties are great. The generosity and the generosity of spirit that we see and hear and experience in Christmas is great. But it's a particular day that comes and goes and is soon forgotten. And yet Christmas is there every day of the year, because this Christ breaks into human life, into the life of the world every day, in wondrous ways, to open our eyes with wonder and awe and love. In the deepest pain and struggle when we're held by another, in the deepest and wondrous joy, God is present, and that is love. And when we live into that love, when we live out of it with acts of kindness and compassion, generosity and forgiveness, inclusion, that is Christmas. And Christ is present. And this is God. So we come to this celebration, a particular day and a particular time. But may it change us, may it open our eyes and ears and heart to feel and know and live and love. And to live into the love that is God, that God has for us all. And there is nothing we can do or say or think or believe or not do or not say or not think or not believe that will stop God loving us or make God love us more. Because God's love for us, for all the world, is infinite. Let's celebrate this love. Let's live in this love all year.